It always takes me about 3 of these takes to finally upload something to YouTube. The first one is short and disorganized. The second one is always too long and rambly. And the third one is somewhere in between, but never exactly perfect. So here we go. I've moved yet again. I move a lot. And I announce that I move a lot. I like moving, I think. I don't know. My last rooming situation was with a roommate, one roommate, and then it was 2 roommates for a while. And it was a mess, and I didn't really have my own space, and so I didn't really ever feel comfortable enough to sit in front of a camera and and stew in my own thoughts and share them with all of you. And as a result of that, my videos were very few and far between. I lived in a very cluttered and dirty apartment, messy, mildewy, mold growing everywhere. I was the only one who cleaned, and my roommate, his idea of cleaning was kind of my idea of cleaning when I was 4, where you just kind of shove things into corners and you're like, look, Mom, it's clean. Really? So that wasn't very good. In fact, this is a TMI moment, so here, plug your ears. I was actually timing my bowel movement so that I could take a shit at work, so that I wouldn't have to take a shit in my own bathroom for fear that I would catch hepatitis or something. It was disgusting. But now I'm in a studio apartment, so the big difference here, I'm still moving in. That's why the lighting situation isn't that good. Not that my lighting situation is ever very good. I've fixed the microphone problem with this tiny little guy, tiny little USB condenser microphone, which was less than 1/3 of the cost of a Yeti that I was looking at as a possible fixer of that thing. But I have an old MacBook that has that awful buzzing noise with the internal microphone, and this, for my purposes, shall suffice. So as I continue to move in, what I'm hoping is that I bought a loft bed, a queen-size loft bed that will have me only a few inches from the ceiling, so there won't be any fun sex time on top of that bed. Not that you need to know that, but now you do. But hopefully in the next few videos you'll see us all underneath a bed. So hopefully it'll be tall enough for me to do YouTube videos under, because otherwise I still have furniture in my own place that I need to move into here, and I have no room for it. I'm living in a 326 square foot space. It's basically the living area over here, the bed area, which would be here and on top of me ideally, and then behind me is the kitchen, as you can see. The walk-in closet is back there, and then through the walk-in closet is actually the bathroom. And it's fun. I don't know, it's a fun space. It's clean, it's kind of OCD. You walk in and everything kind of has its place and is in its place. Like that's kind of my personality if you know me in real life. But at the same time, the whole apartment's dotted with these whimsical little things, like little things that I had from my trip to Japan, to Mexico, little pieces of artwork, both of my own and of other people's, books everywhere about all manner of different things, from consciousness to engineering to oriental medicine to arts and drawing, to whatever else. All that stuff. My walk-in closet is really an IKEA closet, because there's shelving and, you know, extended rods and, you know, double shelving and boxes everywhere that would slide out and in and all this crap. And the bathroom is quite small but comfortable and clean. No hepatitis in there, I promise. But I'm over here on the west side. But there it is. Okay, so no more rambling. Get to it. I just watched The Life of Pi tonight at the Dollar Theater here in Salt Lake City. I'd never seen the movie before, and I didn't know anything about it, and I never read the book. It's great film. Really some really fantastic magical moments, beautiful moments, cinematic moments in the film. The ending falls flat. Few of the actors, like the Canadian, could have done without, or with a replacement of some sorts. But there were some really good moments in the video. The ending is always so important because it pulls the whole thing together and leaves you that final impression, and I was not satisfied with that part, which ultimately, you know, brings down the whole video a little bit. So if you don't think about the movie as actually ever ending and you just think of the individual parts, then it's a better experience. But it got me thinking that actually recently I've had a number of different things happen in life that have redirected me towards my Jungian and sort of Joseph Campbellian side. And ultimately, well, to make that the long story that I just brambled on for about 22 minutes in the last take of this, I can basically condense down into this, that we run the risk in life of associating ourselves too strongly with one aspect of a polarity that is present in every human creature. And that is the difference between the conscious self and the subconscious self. Cheers. The conscious self, when over expressed, is, I'll take just kind of the idea of the militant atheist. The ardent, militant, whatever, atheist, whatever you want to call it, is one who has over-identified with only the conscious aspects of himself, neglecting, really kind of neurotically, the subconscious tendencies of oneself. And with that, they're unhealthy. They're neurotic. They have a split personality. There's this aspect of themselves that they don't understand, they try not to understand, and they try to subvert. And it comes out in all kinds of neurotic tendencies. I mean, atheists are a weird bunch of people, but at the same time, on the other side of the spectrum, you can get just as weird. I mean, religious types are also neurotic, because the only way that you can really identify strongly with one polarity or the other is to be neurotic of the other side. So on the flip side, you have a religious person who is questioned about God, and they subvert that. They cut that part out of themselves, that rational part out of themselves, to maintain their identification with that strong polarity. And the conclusion, I suppose, that I'm looking to share with all of you, that recent events have conspired to shed upon me, or shed insight upon me, whatever that sentence should be written or spoken as, is that the true identification, the healthy identification of a person is not the conscious or the subconscious, but a dovetailing of the two, a synergy of the two, an equal identification with both the rational and the intuitive sides of the self. A lot of people who know me in real life, a few people, and will say that I'm a real rational person. I think I give that off on YouTube as well, but that that's not the whole picture. And what I was getting on about with my apartment here is it speaks of me. If you were to walk through my little tiny 300 square foot apartment, you would see everything in its place, everything sort of angular, and like all of my glassware is, well, all of my plates and such are glass. All of my glasses are glass. I have one ceramic mug that was given to me as a gift, so I didn't have the heart to throw it away, but everything else is glass. And it's clear, and it's crisp, and it's fine, and most everything in my drawer has two purposes, so there's no clutter or wasted space. But then at the same time, there are these whimsical things. There's little artifacts that I've collected from Mexico and Japan on my trips there, artwork that I've done, artwork that other people have done, and the books about consciousness and art and engineering and Oriental medicine and so on and so forth. And so I think everyone should strive to identify not with one side or the other, but the middle ground. Because we are that totality of the subconscious and the conscious minds. We are the totality of that. If we identify too strongly with the objective, which is it's a stupid thing, I don't know, with the rational side of ourselves, and try to objectify everything, it will be lost to the undercurrents of our actual being. But at the same time, if we are too involved with the subconscious realm, and we identify too strongly with that, we will lose touch with what can be rationalized and can be seen clearly. But ultimately, the identification of both of those, of not really recognizing a polarity anymore, is difficult to really put into words. But I do believe it is the point of enlightenment. That, for example, Buddhism, for those Joseph Campbell lovers out there, you'll know that, because he talks about this fondly, that Buddhism is represented with a wheel with 8 spokes, and the 8 spokes are the Eightfold Path. But the point of it is the actual point at the center that doesn't move, that everything else orbits around. And the center that I'm advocating here, not the the Wheel of Fortune, for example, to kind of tie in the Buddhist wheel with the tarot card. You have people at the bottom, you have people at the top, and it spins around. You have people descending and people rising, and you have the conscious self, the subconscious self, so on. You have these subconscious imagery like the whale from the depths of the ocean coming up from the depths of the ocean to present itself and staring, or the person staring down into the abyss to symbolize staring into the subconscious, or the light and the Garden of Eden and all this sort of chipper, happy stuff to be represented with the conscious self, ultimately are one and the same creature. And, and ultimately we would call upon neurosis to be any one side, whether you are an ardent atheist and refuse to acknowledge the sort of Joseph Campbell or Jungian sides to oneself, or you are too, you either rationalize things away or you faith things away. Not that faith is a verb, but if you would permit me the indulgence, I think you get what I'm saying. A lot of details there, and I guess I have a few more minutes. So that's the basic idea. If you're good with that, move along. For the rest of you, let's stick it out here for 5 more minutes. We'll see if I can come to a few thoughts. The life of Pi was interesting because it had these really amazing moments. One, I love it when I'm reminded of Joseph Campbell, and it does have Joseph Campbell moments where it talks about Vishnu and how he's sleeping on the cosmic ocean of reality, and everything that we are is a dream. And it reminds me as well of actually, I've been reading and watching YouTube videos on interviews of ayahuasca experiences, and how that is an example, I think, of coming away from that kind of experience and identifying too strongly with the subconscious mind. That we take it literally, that we see people as aliens and then think, we must be aliens, interbred with apes, and oh my goodness, and now the world is clear. And I don't think that's the aha moment to have. That rather, when we're having dreams, that we should interpret them as dreams, and ayahuasca experiences or any kind of chemical-induced alternate state of mind, whether chemically induced or otherwise, maybe just through meditation, should be interpreted as a dream and not as literal fact or so forth. And when we do take it as literal fact, that's when we identify with overabundance on this side of the subconscious mind. And once that's challenged, the atheist, any number of personalities here on YouTube, to use as an example, come across knocking on your door, you ignore that, and you ignore it, you suppress it, you suppress it. While at the same time, if you were to sit an ardent atheist down and try them to interpret their dreams, they're usually going to be lost at it. They really don't give it much time and thought. They don't think in those terms. Although I'm hoping that there are more atheists out there than what I'm representing here, that actually have some good face-to-face time with their subconscious, and that they have some understanding of what the hell's going on and have a relationship with it. In my case, I use my contemplation and my stewing of my own thoughts as a time to build a relationship with my own mind, and that sounds really weird. And I recognize that, but ultimately what I'm trying to do is have the conscious self communicate with the subconscious self, and the result of that are dreams. That now that I'm in my own space again, and now that I'm less stressed out about being around people who I do not care for that much. I do on a very deep spiritual level, but nothing less than saintly. Shit, where was I even going with that? God damn it. Oh, that now I'm having these dreams where they're straightforward. They're easy to interpret because you build this relationship and rapport with between the conscious and the subconscious self, such that your dreams, like mine from time to time, will be so straightforward as to that you'll be in a situation, you're stressed out, you fall asleep, you have a dream where you're sitting with a man in a robe and a beard and whatever else, and you say, help me, what should I do? And the master, says, this is what you should do. And you're like, that makes a lot of sense. And then you wake up and you're like, yes, that does make a lot of sense. And then you do it. For those of you who have been around for a long time, probably remember the dream that I shared about me and the Japanese sword master, where it was a dream of futility. I would try to do this drill where I would take a razor sharp Japanese sword and try to drive it into soft ground, and was not able to do it. It would ricochet off of the dirt and make this ping and the thunk of the sword falling into the grass, and that sound of the thump was devastating, because it showed how futile and how horrible I was at it. It made me feel ridiculous. And one day, then that next day, whatever, in the dream, the master is watching me practice this by myself in the courtyard, and invites me over to the kind of the stone patio situation. He takes out his sword, and he does this whole thing where I'm like, wow, he's gonna drive it right through the stone, this is so cool. And he does this kia, very loud, martial art scream yell thing, and drives it downward into the stone. And sure enough, his sword goes ping and clang, which was very important, because it was the sound of the thump that was really the devastating blow. That was the acknowledgement, the realization of failure in the auditory sense. And his was even more loud and obscene than mine. It was the clang of metal against stone, and it just echoed through the forest. And you're like, oh, Jesus, like, no one saw that. And you just feel this. You're just like, I'm embarrassed, and I don't know what to do. And what? And but the master didn't freak out. He just picked up his sword, sort of smiled, and walked off. And like, I'm sitting there. I'm like, I just saw the master fail. I just saw him fail. I just saw him fail. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, wait a second. I failed. He let me see him fail. Why would he let me see him fail? And then it ultimately came to the conclusion that the notion of master is not some transcended, holier than thou, or otherworldly being, but someone who's just become very skillful. And that the true sense of mastery, or the true master, is something a little bit less temporal and less skill-based. It's something a little bit more infinite, a little bit more timeless. It was a cool message to come across. And it all came from a dream, not because I'm a sage or a prophet or anything like that, but because I've participated and deliberately tried to build a rapport between my conscious and subconscious self. Another quick dream that I shared was, I think I've shared this one, whereas I was leading a band of people through an office building. So this was a modern setting. Through an office building, trying to find this wreck of the Hesperus that's just been causing havoc. I finally find the kid. This is a longer dream, so making it shorter. Finally found this little emo, just really emaciated looking emo child, about 14, up in an air duct, all sort of tucked away, and he has his blanket up there and his little lamp, and he's reading a manga comic book, so a Japanese animation style comic book. And he looks at me with his dark circles around his eyes, and his messed up emo kind of style jet black hair, pale gaunt face. And I grab this kid, drag him kicking and screaming, and now to where? Well, up to the top, to the master, not to the master, but to the boss, and to do away with this little shit. And I get him all the way up to what now has become the principal's office. That's just kind of how I identified it. We walk into this receiving room where there's a bunch of just old desks everywhere, just big wooden heavy desks, dark wood. The lights are off. There's a single window with some light pouring through, and we're waiting in there. And I have the kid just like in a headlock or whatever, and then I start to panic. I realize that, wait a second, I don't want this kid to get hurt. What am I doing? Why am I bringing him here? What have I done? No, this is awful. No, no, something's wrong. So I take the kid and I chuck him behind a desk, and I jump on top of him to cover him, to keep him quiet. And sure enough, out the door comes the principal. And the principal, so here's for symbology for you, is a centaur, a very old, or sort of like an old, kind of like old masculine, very well built. It reminds me of sort of sculptures of Zeus, where it's this older gentleman, but just the epitome of masculinity. He's got muscle everywhere. He's got beard, whatever. This guy had a phallus, not sexual. I know what you're gonna say, and go ahead and say it. That's fine. But honestly, it had nothing to do with. It was nothing sexual feeling at all. It was just that this guy was masculinity through and through. And of course, the horse part of himself was strong and powerful, and he would just stride, just boom, boom, boom. And as he's looking around, he doesn't see us, and the dream ends. I wake up, I fall back to sleep, the dream resumes. I'm walking around my day to day in the office building, and I snap to, and I think, oh my God, where'd the kid go? Where's shit? So I rush up to the principal's office again. I get to the top floor, open the elevator doors open, people come flooding in, and I can't get through the people to get through the door before the door's shut, and we go back down. I think, shit, like I couldn't get through. The kid's still up there. I don't know what to do. So slowly we're going down the elevator. People are getting off one by one until it's just me and this other guy on the elevator. And I look at him, and he's this young, sort of handsome guy in a business suit with jet black hair. And for a moment there, I look at him, I'm like, and I start talking, and I realize that he's the principal. He's not the centaur anymore, but he's this youthful looking guy with jet black hair, but also a business suit. And we then get into his car, and we're driving around, and he's telling me about life and, love and all these kinds of things. And wake up to come to the conclusion that character in the second part of the dream was actually the merger of two different aspects of myself. There was the masculine, the over controlling, overbearing aspect, the masculine part, with then the child, if you will, this little geeky, emaciated, emo kid, reading his manga book that I was trying to get rid of, when in fact the healthy way is to merge the two. And again, so it's like they're all in dream language, but it's clear enough to come away from it with some kind of a clear message. And the most recent one, just to get to the point, was to revisit my writing. And so that's what I'm planning to do. I want to open up some more blogs. It's so hard to stay focused on a single blog. I have like a half dozen blogs that I've started over the years, and I'll write a few posts and get over it. But we'll see where that's all about, or where that all goes. And if you all have interest in something that I have to say, I encourage your thought, because I know that some things I talk about are fascinating to me and not so fascinating to everyone else. And so I'll write about those things. I'll talk about those things that are fascinating to me, because this is my channel after all. But if you people want to see something more, I wouldn't mind entertaining those thoughts and actions and wishes and desires, whatever I'm trying to say. So until then, sweet dreams.